Hey everybody, just a quick reminder, it is November, it is our fall fundraiser for Toys for Tots. For more information on that, click the link above my head or wait until after the video for more information. Hello everybody, Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Go ahead and leave us a like right now because we are looking at the Dragonfly. Yes, this is chapter 2 of our HASLab Dragonfly project. We are looking at the vehicle itself. In chapter 1, we've already gone over 2 of the figures that came with this project, Wild Bill and Glenda. There will be a card and link in this area somewhere right here. But today we are getting to the meat of it. We are looking at the Dragonfly itself. And I have to admit, when I heard that the Dragonfly was the second HasLab for the Classified series, I had some mixed thoughts on it. I never really thought of the Dragonfly as like, you know, that iconic vehicle for G.I. Joe. I don't know why. I think it was because that I didn't have mine for very long. I had my Dragonfly when I was a kid, and I forget what happened, but something happened that it broke, and I ended up throwing it out. I still had Wild Bill, but for an attack helicopter before the Tomahawk came out, I had a old Blue Thunder toy that fit the G.I. Joe figures that I think I found cheap at like a KB toy store or something, and I convinced my parents to buy it for me. So while everybody was flying around in the Dragonfly, and the Dragonfly was in the comics and in the cartoon, I had Blue Thunder. So there's that. Now, there are some things about this that are very reminiscent of the original toy. There are some things about this that they have updated, and there are some things about this that are pretty much just flat out different. And we'll go over all of those one by one. And I have to admit, though, in this position with the blast effects, the rotors, the flight stand that kicks it off at an angle so like you can really get a good view of it, I have to admit, this is pretty cool. I really like this. There's also much more mass and heft to it than what I was expecting. So speaking of the mass, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get the measurements right out of the way. And we're just going to take it off of its base right here. And at this point, I am aware that there are like 1,000 videos on the Dragonfly out there right now. But I really wanted to take a look at this one. I was remiss with the H.I.S. tank. I haven't done, I think, a real vehicle review since the Sky Striker, to be completely honest. So let's break this all down, and let's put some measurements to it. First of all, let's angle this down a little. Putting the tape measure to it from the bottom of the skids to the top rotor right here, we're at roughly 11 inches tall. From the tip of the tail to the chin gun right here, it looks like it's about 34 3/4 long. And then when we go we're going across the outriggers, and I'm counting the rockets. So from the outside of the missile to the outside of the missile, we're at roughly 13 inches across. Now, the rotor, on the other hand, if we hold the rotor out, we're at 30 1/4 from end to end for the rotor. So this does take up a pretty big footprint. And honestly, that was one of my first issues about this when we were funding it. It's a big piece of plastic. It takes up a lot of shelf space. Thankfully, that stand helps elevate it. You can put things underneath it, so that's cool. But for the size of it, it only holds like 2 figures, 4 if you put some on the skids out here. Whereas like the H.I.S. tank, it was a much smaller footprint. I would argue has basically the same mass, but it has the capability of holding many more figures. You have the pilot, you have the gunner, you have 1, maybe 2 if they're friendly on the inside of the H.I.S. tank, and then you have 2 more standing on the outside of the H.I.S. tank. Not to mention the H.I.S. tank kind of creates its diorama. Like the H.I.S. tank is kind of like a play set in and of itself, that you can set figures up around it, you can base scenes around it, you can really have Cobra. I mean, we have that fire team now for Cobra that we can set up around the H.I.S. tank. Whereas this, you'll get a pilot, a gunner, and then maybe some passengers on the skids here. There just seemed to be more with the H.I.S. tank than with this. Now, having said that, I like some of the changes that they've made to the Dragonfly. There's one change I wish they would have made that they didn't. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I like that it's not just all black, or that it's not all green, olive drab green. I like that we have these black accents right here. The black on the nose, the black on the canopy, the black on the engine compartments up here, and the black continuing down the tail. I also really like the outriggers having black up top and then like olive drab green on the bottom. I think that is really cool. It just gives it a much more aggressive, much more dramatic, and much more dangerous look, to be honest. And speaking of its look, at the time the Dragonfly first came out, this is back in the 80s, the attack gunship of the news, the attack helicopter that everybody was very familiar with, that was used in a lot of movies, a lot of TV shows, the ones that, to be honest, kids at the time would have been most familiar with, was the Cobra attack gunship, which is what the Dragonfly is very heavily based off of. The body design, the look of it, the armaments, especially the vintage version, is very much based off of the Cobra, which is now, I believe they've all been refitted to be Super Cobras. In researching this, I was actually surprised to find out that the Super Cobras are still in use by the Marines. I thought they had all been phased out in place of what took their place, the Apache gunship. And the Apache was just starting to come into its own, I think, when the Dragonfly was created. So I think that if this would have come out a few years later, they would have based it more off of the Apache. And some of this, I feel, is based off of the Apache. Mainly the outriggers and the way that they hold the weapon designs. Because when we take a look at the weapon pods, this is all modular, and you can even set this up to look like a standard Apache loadout of what is used these days. One of the things that they didn't change, that I wish they would have, the gun turret of the vintage Dragonfly had the Gatling gun and what they called a grenade launcher on the other side. When me and my brother used to play G.I.Joe, because we were familiar with the Apache and we were familiar with the shoot where you look controls of the Apache, we imagined that the grenade launcher was a camera and the Gatling gun was the Gatling gun, so that wherever the gunner looked, the turret of the Dragonfly moved with them like it does on the Apache. The turret, the front turret of the Dragonfly doesn't even have the grenade launcher next to it anymore. This is very much like the rotary cannon on a Super Cobra right now. I wish this is one of the things that they would have changed. I wish that in addition to updating the outriggers, I wish they would have changed the turret to match the Apache turret as well, because that would have just been cool. It would have just been cool to have that camera next to it, and just the idea that like wherever the gunner looked, the turret would move, the chin gun would move with the gunner's point of view. Something else that I wish they had changed. When they created the Dragonfly, they wanted it to have, obviously, this Dragonfly look with this long tail that tapered down. I hate that. I hated that even as a kid, that we can pop this cap off right here. And there is what they call the stabilizing rotor right there, which is basically how the vintage toy ended. It didn't taper off to this cap like they gave you. It had this open rotor that they said was the stabilizing rotor. This vehicle would twist itself into the ground if it was real and tried to fly. Going back to the Tomahawk, one of the things that I found amusing as a child was that they sort of did it backwards. The helicopter that should have had a stabilizer rotor on the back, the Dragonfly, did not. Whereas the Tomahawk that had the 2-rotor setup that didn't need a stabilizer had the rear stabilizer recessed into the tail. The designers at Hasbro kind of had it backwards. I really wish these, because these flex, these move, these uprights here, so you can bend them down, you can position them however you want. I kind of do a vintage look where this one is straight up and this one just angles it a little, but I wish they would have changed this and just had one stabilizer tail that came up with a stabilizer rotor on it. I wish they would have changed that. Now, like we said, the weapon pods up here are completely customizable. You see we have the weapon pod with the 4 rockets right here, and these pop off. Fun little fact is that these are the same design as the rockets, the missiles that came with the H.I.S. tank. Whoops. As the missiles that came with the H.I.S. tank right here. They do not have the same dog bone connection. This has a break in it midpoint so that you can't swap the missiles. You can't put these on the Dragonfly. You can put these on the H.I.S. tank, but you can't put the H.I.S. tank missiles on the Dragonfly. That is a little annoying. One thing that I do like about it though is that there is some crossover, and we'll look at the blast effects more in a minute. But the blast effects that come with these that you can put on this rocket, you can actually put on the H.I.S. tank missiles as well. So there is some crossover right there if you want to have like your H.I.S. tank launching missiles. I like that. I think they need to do more stuff like that with their HasLab projects. So we have those 4 missiles, and then we have the other 4 missiles that were on the other side right here. And then of course we have the big missiles. These are kind of hefty. I mean, like, look at the size of these. These missiles by themselves, from the wing to the nose, is 7 inches long. These are longer than a figure is tall. And then these pieces, for some reason, also come off as well, which leaves these open gaps. Now, unfortunately, that doesn't mean you can put these onto the side. It doesn't work that way. These are only for these pieces to hold the end missiles on. On this side, we have the winch right here. And I like that they use sort of like a silver string. It makes it look like a steel cable coming down from it. And it has, you know, you can hear that. It has a click winch that you can spool back in. I like the hook on the end of it. It's not just like a standard hook. It actually looks like it's a mechanical working hook. I dig that. We'll see how that works with the body basket that Glenda came with whenever we look at the Night Force figures, because we're going to hang crazy legs off of that. This also is a modular piece that can come off. Now, the only reason they put this on is because the vintage Dragonfly had a winch on it. For the vintage line, it just came down out of the bottom of the vehicle, out of the bottom of the helo. Realistically, this would not have a winch. This has no reason to have a winch. This is not a cargo hauler. This is not a rescue helo. That would be the providence of the Tomahawk. The reason they put a winch on the Dragonfly is because they probably never imagined G.I. Joe was going to go as long as it did. They probably never imagined that they were going to make a second helo for the line, let alone one that was basically like a big Chinook. So I appreciate that they added it, but I also appreciate that it is modular and we can take it off to make room for more armament. Now, this big guy over here. This was one aspect of the Dragonfly that I always loved, this auto cannon right here. This gave it very much like a Hercules C-130 gunship vibe to me, like Puff the Magic Dragon. And I love that this version pivots, because the one that came on the vintage was mounted to the skid. And then had a feed going into the side of the vehicle. I like that this one hangs from the outrigger and it can position up, but more importantly, it can position down. Like, this is an anti-armor weapon. The machine guns, the chin gun is anti-personnel, anti-vehicle. This is anti-armor. This is for when they're strafing the H.I.S. line. I really dig this. This is also a modular piece. It has a really nice mold to it, a really nice sculpt. I like how on the barrel right here, you can see some discoloring, like some heat damage, like maybe this whole piece is silver, but this is all like black heat damage and soot around the tip right there. I really like that. Whoops. We also have an additional piece that ports to the inside of the Dragonfly, and you can see the rounds, the belt being fed coming down. And when it is all connected together, this just seats right in there. So it looks like just a belt-fed weapon into the side of the autocannon. I love the design of this. I love the look of this. So there is a stripped down Dragonfly, but we also have two more missile canisters right here. These circular, like, small missile launchers. I don't know what the names of these are, but I think this is really cool. I also like how this is the blast effect that I fit into the autocannon at the beginning of the video. This pops out and actually fits into the exhaust ports of that, so it looks like it's getting ready to launch a mini missile. I think that's really cool. So with two of these and two of those, if we take these and we put them on the outside here, and then we take these heavy ones and we put them on the inside, and we take a look at that loadout, that's, from the photos that I found, that's a standard Apache loadout right there. So you are throwing down some damage right there. And then you add these big boys. And you have got a helo, whoops, sorry, airborne. You have got a helo that is ready to do some damage right there. I think that looks great. I think that looks really cool. I do like the look of this, but it's not going to be the layout that I think I'm going to use. I like this too much. Like I said, really gives me like that Hercules C-130 gunship vibe to it. And that's just awesome. So this is going to go on. These will probably come off. Both of these will get moved to the outside like it was at the beginning of the video. And then one of these will get loaded onto the outrigger on this side. And give me 1 minute, I will show you what that looks like in a second. So right there, that is going to be my loadout for the Dragonfly. We have the big missiles on the side. We have the quad missiles hanging off the outriggers on underneath. We have the autocannon coming down off the side of the outrigger. I still love the look of this even after all of these years. And then we have like the salt and pepper shaker hanging off the side over here. This is going to be my loadout. I like the look of this. I dig this. I originally thought of swapping out these, putting them on the outsides, and then putting just like one quad launcher right here. But I kind of like I kind of like the more aggressive look of having all of this armament on there. Kind of like, you know, he's going, Wild Bill is going beast mode. I'm sure there are, actual attack helicopter pilots out there that will be able to tell me why this is a ridiculous loadout, and I respect that. I really do. But I just like this way too much to swap things out. Now, in addition to everything that we just looked at on the outriggers, you saw that it has a chin turret right here, and the rotary cannon can go up, it can go down very well. Like I said, I wish they would have made this more in line with the Apache and put like a camera off the side right here. Just like how they added the camera to the nose of the Sky Striker. And then we have our additional guns on the sides of the canopy right here, that these can accept the blast effects. These are the same blast effects that were used for the autocannon, and it's the same one that we used to put on the back of the salt and pepper launchers right here, that these can fit on the side guns right there. like that. Now, I don't know why. There's nothing to put on the rotary gun right there. I really was hoping that like maybe these could fit into the top barrel or something, but no, there's no blast effects for the rotary cannon. Also, I'm not entirely sure why, but the side guns can retract and extend. I don't know if that's based off of something real world or if it's just like a design feature of the toy that they're just not anchored in there properly. I'm not sure, but I keep mine extended out and you can put the blast effects on there. I'll use these mostly for the autocannon and the rocket launcher. Even on the original toy, I rarely imagined using these. We had the chin gun, we had the big gun on the side, and we had all of the missiles. So that was really enough for me. Now, in addition to those blast effects, we also have these ones right here, which you have seen. These are the ones that fit onto the rockets here to make these look like they're about to be launched. And we can also put these on the big missiles like they're just heating up and getting ready to go. But as far as the blast effects go, the one that that really grabbed everybody's attention is definitely this one, the launch effect, which is just cool. We do have two of these. I'm sorry I don't have the other one out. The other one is still in the box. But we do have two of these, so you can have both of them launching at the same time. When we get to the end of the video, I'll show you how that looks. This is just a really cool effect. I was really hoping that they would come out with something like this for the H.I.S. tank, or even like the missiles on the Sky Striker, like just as like an effects pack that you could buy separately. But alas, all we have are these. I love how this like flares out and then tapers, and then this is basically just like offshoot. This is basically just smoke right here. The whole thing, this was brilliant. I love the look of this. So let's break this back down. All right. And if you give me a moment, I'm going to turn off the lights so that we can look at the light up effects of this. Okay, so I didn't completely darken the room so you can still see the outline of the vehicle right here. Now, this doesn't have all of the same light up settings that the H.I.S. tank has, but it does have some things that you can cycle through. There's a button right here on the back of the engine compartment behind the rotary blades that you hit it once, and you get the green interior, you get the green light up of the dashboard, and I will supply photos of that right now so you can see how cool this looks. The detail of these control boards, and they're not just a facsimile of each one. Each control board is different. You have the pilot's board and you have the gunnery board, and I appreciate the difference and the attention to detail that went in with these. This just looks really cool. I liked the interior lights of the H.I.S. tank. I love the interior lights of the Dragonfly. Now the other setting we have is we hit that again, and we have the front lights along the underside of the fuselage right here. We have one on either side. And then we hit it one more time, and we have the spotlight that comes down from underneath. And I think that's really cool. I think that is a really cool design. I know it's not casting very well on the floor right there, but you can see right here on the bottom how it's just shining straight down. I think that is a really cool touch. I like that. It doesn't do a design like the H.I.S. tank does, but I think that's because on the stand, the light is just too far from the surface. Now we hit this again, and it, once, twice, three times. There we go. We hit this again, and it will leave the spotlight on, and it will leave the interior lights on, but it'll turn off the front lights right there. And then we hit it again, and everything is shut down after that. So now with the Dragonfly down off the stand, we're going to take a look at the canopy and maybe take a look at the interior a little bit. That the canopy for the Dragonfly opens like the vintage one did, that you can just pull this up and the whole thing will open, and that makes for easy access to get the figures in and out. But the extra step, the extra attention to detail that they did that I really love, is that the canopy has these gull wing doors on either side. So that whenever you're posing, whenever you're taking photos, you can have the canopy flaps opened so that like Wild Bill gets in from this side, Glenda gets in from this side, or whoever your gunner is. And you can set up a diorama, you can pose them, you can take photos of them with the canopies open like this, rather than just having the whole thing flipped up in the most unrealistic way imaginable. Now, looking at the interior right here, I really like how they sectioned off these seats. Like, these look like real seats. The headrest sits higher than the backrest. There's a texture to them. There's a curvature to them. They look like true seats that you would find on something like this. They look cushioned. I really like the interior design of this. There's also some additional detail right here that has some controls on the side. Once again, I will shoot some hand footage to show you during the video just of what I'm talking about, and the interior lights for the control panels. Like, everything looks great. Also, we have these 4-point harnesses right here that these, I think I showed you this during the unboxing maybe, these will pop apart. They're sticking a little, come apart. There we go. Those will pop apart so that you can get your figures in there, and then you can attach the 4-point harness around them. Now, when you have the canopy closed, and we'll get a figure in here in a moment, but when you have the canopy closed, the gull wings are latched into a groove, or there we go, a groove along the fuselage. And I had some minor issues trying to pop them open when it was like this. And then that's when I realized why bother doing that? You can just pop the whole thing up, open what you want, and then close it back down. No damage to the tabs on the sides of the gull wings, no damage to the tab slots on the sides of the body of the vehicle. So, pro tip right there. Now let's get some figures in here. That I believe during the review I said Glenda is going to be my gunner for the Dragonfly, because Airborne's my Rio. Airborne here is Hard Deck's Rio, so he has other things to take care of. So sorry, my man, you're going back there, and Glenda is going to be our gunner. And having this helmet, let me get this on. Having this helmet, this is one of the reasons why I wish there was like a camera set up for the turret, because like I can imagine that like I can pretend that she has a heads-up display on the inside of her visor that she's seeing where the turret turns, and I just think that's awesome. I love that. I love that about the Apache. That is so cool to me. It's just like, I know this is really off topic, but I have heard, and I don't know how true this is, but I have heard that like some of the 5th generation fighters that we have, the pilot has a holographic display on the inside of his helmet, so that like if he looks back over his shoulder or if he looks down, he can actually see through the fighter. I don't know how true that is. That would be awesome if that is true. Okay, so we need to bend her knees a little bit more so that she has some. All right, give me a moment to get her in here. Okay, so there's Glenda in the gunner seat. It took a little finagling, mainly because her legs don't come out straight very well. So she's not seated as deep into the chair as she could be, but she still looks good. She still has the 4-point harness on there. There are control yokes in here that I was able to get into her hand, and she has her hand on the side controls right here. And as you can see, she's looking towards you, and the gun is turning with her. The turret is turning with her. I still think that is an awesome feature. Now, Wild Bill here, he has to be the pilot. I mean, we put Airborne in this in the unboxing. I haven't put anybody in the pilot seat yet, because I wasn't going to until we got Wild Bill in there. So let's pop the harness. The harness is very, I don't want to say sticky, but like the peg system that they have for the harness locks in there real tight. And while I appreciate that, and that's great once we have the figure in, getting it pried apart, I'm worried about ripping the plastic straps like I just did. Give me a moment. Okay, so before we get Wild Bill in here, this is one thing that I was worried about. Up front, you have more space to use, and I've mentioned this before. I got big hands. I can't handle delicate things very well, but I was able to get enough leverage to pry this apart. Back here, there's a little bit more restricted space, and mine just broke. I ripped the buckle off of the centerpiece right here. The plastic tore. So, model glue, I guess. I'm gonna have to get to bind that back together. Maybe some epoxy so that it melts the plastic together. But, well, that is what it is now. I mean, what can you do? So let's just get Wild Bill in the cockpit and see how that looks. Okay, so other than the strap breaking, which like I said, I can get a little dab of epoxy and I'll be able to fix that. I don't think it's a big issue, it's just kind of a bummer. But getting Wild Bill into his pilot seat is much easier than getting Glenda into the gunner seat, because I'm pretty sure, you know, Wild Bill being made specifically for this, he conforms to the chair, even with the 6-shooter's arm. His legs move into the position where you need them to be, so he very much, like, he's just at home back there. Like, as a matter of fact, once I fix the strap right here, I may not have to worry about it again, because I don't know if I'll ever take him out of this thing at this point. But check this out. How cool does this look? There we have our Joes lined up in there. They look good. They look like they have enough headroom. And let's move it a little closer. Let's kill the lights and let's try something here. Check that out. How awesome does that look with the green dashboard lights lighting them up for like a night run right here? And now, like, I really wish, I always have the wish that I would have been able to buy 2 of these, but like now I really wish that I was able to buy 2 of these, because I would so paint one of these up and turn it into a Night Force chopper or a Night Force helo. Like, oh. Okay, so in addition to the canopy flipping open and having the gull wings right here, we also have some access ports that can drop down. We have one right here up front where you can see sort of like, I guess this is supposed to be the feed for this one way up here. It lines up a little, I guess. You can imagine that that's for that. But then we also have a engine compartment back here that pops open, and you can get access to the engines for like repairs. I like this. These harken back to the vintage line. A lot of times the vehicles would have like engine compartments that it would open, just so you could have the figures, your characters working on the things, doing maintenance, having it break down in the middle of the field, doing some emergency repair. And we have these on both sides. They mirror each other. And like you saw, it has the tail end cap right here that you can have either the quote-unquote stabilizer rotor exposed, or you can pop this on and have it taper to like a true Dragonfly tail. I'm pretty sure mine's going to stay off, because at least there's some form of a rotor back here. Also, you may have noticed that once you plug them in, these wings, these stabilizer wings, rotate. I don't know on a helo if that would really do that, if this is a necessity, but I think it's a cool touch. I like the addition of it, because then when you put it on the flight stand, which we've been taking a look at, if it's going up or if it's going down, you can kind of position these to go along with it. I don't know how much these affect the control of the vehicle though, but I do like having the open ports right here. So something else that I want to talk about real fast that I almost forgot was that, well, first of all, we have these marker lights on it that unfortunately aren't part of the light up situation. So like the red light back here underneath the rotors doesn't light up, and the marker lights on the outriggers don't light up. That would have been really cool if they could have like put LEDs in here. I get why they couldn't do it for the outriggers. These are pieces you have to snap into place once you get it open, but it would have been cool if this would have lit up. And this is the button back here, by the way, right here. So look at the size of these rotors. One thing, like, there's no big deal about them. They're like thick, they're heavy plastic. They get some good spin out of it, but they are so heavy that I noticed that when you spin them, there's actually a downdraft. That's how heavy these things are. They create a downdraft when you spin them. So in addition to the Dragonfly itself, we have decal sheets that came with the Dragonfly, just like how we got decal sheets with the Sky Striker that would let you design it, customize it the way you want to. This top sheet right here is one of my favorites because we have the shark mouth and the angry eye. That this is pretty much reminiscent of what is on, or what was on the front of a Cobra gunship. This was also on the front of the Tiger Force version of the Dragonfly. So I am 100% going to try and put these on. I say try because I've never been very good at applying decals. Even when I was a kid and I was putting them on, arrows never pointed straight. Things were always a little wonky. When I was a kid, I didn't care. This, I'm going to take a little bit more time with, because this line, this piece, and this piece are all separate pieces so that you can fit them around the gun right there, like the gun is coming out of the shark mouth. And then you can put the eye somewhere on the canopy and then have these downturns. And I have a feeling that even though they come out in individual pieces, once you put them on, I might have to take a razor knife and cut along the lines of the doors. I'm not 100% certain about that. So this isn't something I want to just slap on there during the video. I'm going to have to take my time with that and really think about how these get applied. In addition, you have Chips and Salsa, Country and Western, Sundance and Butch, meaning Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, that these are intended to be put on the Salt and Pepper Shaker missile launchers. That during the HasLab project, I believe they used Chips and Salsa to mount on here. Country and Western, I'm okay with that. I thought about using Sundance and Butch, but part of me kind of thinks that's what Wild Bill calls his guns, not the pieces of his helo. I also really like the different Dragonfly emblems that we have. I love this one right here, Dragonfly XH1, that is basically a Dragonfly riding a missile. I think that is really cool. And then we have a bunch of different emblems right here that we can put on the helo to customize it. There's no decal sheet because I believe the idea is you can just put these wherever you want to. As a matter of fact, we have these aces and eights decals right here that I don't know what the intention was, but I think I'm going to use those on the Salt and Pepper launchers, the aces and eights. I just like the idea of that. I think that's what we're going to go with, because I believe I said during the review for Wild Bill that he needs a deck of cards. We got to get him a set of poker cards. So I think I'm going to use those. I also like these additional ones that you can put on the tail. The snake wrapped around the horseshoe is a nice touch, but and even though I think that's a copperhead, yeah, that's a copperhead, but like Cobra has a copperhead already. And if it's a rattler, which maybe it's a rattler, Cobra has a rattler. So the other sheet is nuts, because this would be great if I had a Night Force version of the Dragonfly. It's these Frankenstein decals that you can put the mouth on the front of it like you would the shark jaws. You have this insane looking eye, you have the neck bolts, and then you have these stitches that you can just run down the tail of the Dragonfly. This would be awesome on like the Night Force version of the Dragonfly. Like, man, I don't need to convince myself to buy another Dragonfly off of eBay or something. That would be stupidly expensive. And then we have these ones as well. And we have more of the Dragonfly on the missile. We also have Zombie Wild Bill riding the Dragonfly, riding the missile, which I believe is meant to go along with these decals right here. Now, these two big ones that they have, this is for the base of the flight stand, that these are supposed to go right in here. And that's cool, but I wish this one right here would have taken off Wild Bill and just been an enlarged version of this with just the Dragonfly on the missile, because then that I would have put at the base. As it stands right now, I think I'm going to use just the standard olive looking one with the Dragonfly with the boxing gloves on and put that on the base as well. Something else that I wish they would have done different with this says DF1, Dragonfly 1, I get that, but everything else that we have says XH1, which is the call sign or the designation of the Dragonfly. I wish there would have been some uniformity right there. And then we have these smaller decals here that, once again, we can use those anywhere we want on the Dragonfly. The decal sheets they give us for the classified vehicles, especially the HasLabs, I think are fantastic. It really gives you the option of customizing the vehicle, setting it up, designing it however you want, making it your own. If you do get two, you can have the two of them looking different from each other, which is also something that I really appreciate and I think is really cool. So that is my look at the Dragonfly. All in all, I do like it. I really do. I don't like it as much as the H.I.S. tank. I do think the H.I.S. tank is still my favorite of the G.I.Joe HasLab projects, even over my beloved 3 3/4 Sky Striker. There's just, I don't know, there's just something like so much more with the H.I.S. tank, I feel, that we don't get with this and the Sky Striker. And that's not to put down either one of them. I do like the Dragonfly, and I think they did a fantastic job on it. I just like the H.I.S. tank a little bit better. I'm kind of annoyed at how easily the harness broke. That may have just been me, but the peg and socket that they have for that 4-point harness, there's really not a whole lot of room or leverage to like try and pry it open gently in there. Maybe I'll need to put some heat on that, try and loosen it up, see if I can get the socket to expand a little bit more. The design of it is fantastic. It harkens back to that original vintage look, but it has just enough updated to make it new, to keep it current. Like the engines back here being like flattened and rounded on the edges, like flat rectangles, looks so much more modern, so much more aggressive than just the round turbines of the original one. It keeps that Cobra look, but it has some Cobra Assault helicopter, not Cobra as in Cobra. It keeps that look, and while updating a lot of it. Love the autocannon. I have this facing the wrong way for you to see it right now, but I love the autocannon on the side. You can see I did put the DF1 decal down here on the stand, so that's going to be the decal for the stand right there. I'll put the rest on there and probably take pictures of it and put it up on Instagram once I have this thing all decked out, once I decide exactly how I'm going to apply the decals. Once again, the decal sheets, always a great addition to the G.I.Joe HasLabs to customize them out. Never picked up any other HasLab, so I don't know if they all have this or not. One other thing that I found out is that my Robo Skull, one of the first Kickstarters I ever backed, is actually finally shipping. I think that Kickstarter ended like, wow, I think that Kickstarter ended in like 2018, 2019, and we're finally getting the Robo Skulls for that. Unfortunately, I did not buy a flight stand for that, which I am kicking myself in the butt right now, that I think once it comes in, I will get a flight stand, and it'll be really cool to see these two next to each other. Looking forward to the Dragonfly even more now. Looking forward to the Rattler even more now that I've taken a look at this. But let me know, what are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on HasLab in general? Because I understand that kind of divides the fandom a little bit. Do you like this one? Do you like it better? How do you think it compares to the H.I.S. tank? Did this meet your expectations? For me, it did, but honestly, I don't think my expectations were that high for it to begin with. So For me, I got what I imagined I was going to pay for. I do wish that this had a stabilizer rotor. I wish that's one thing they would have changed up. And once again, I do like that they included the winch, but it's also modular, that you don't have to put it on the Dragonfly. So that's it. That's chapter 2. Chapter 3 probably won't be coming out until after Thanksgiving, maybe into December. But with that, we will be looking at the final 2 figures that came with this project. I saved the best for last. And we will be looking at some of my beloved Night Force characters, Ripcord and Crazy Legs, and I'm really looking forward to that. Hello everyone, thank you for making it to the end. November is our annual fall fundraiser for Toys for Tots. Every year we host this drive where through your donations, Uncle Britt and I are able to go toy shopping to purchase toys for needy families to get them through the holiday season. It's a worthy cause and an organization that's very close to my heart. If you're interested in donating, please click the link in the description below or this video right here. And while you're in the clicking mood, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel immensely, and that's free. So remember, play well everyone, stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.